hood, front bumper, and the fenders are actually from Voltex.
What's your name?
Albert.
Albert, and what is your car?
The Evolution MR. Wasn't supposed to mod it. It was one of those things where just kind of really didn't want the car at first. Because I had a EK, so it kind of fell into the car. Then eventually, after a while, it was just, when I got it, it was just one of those like, hey, you know what, it's all-wheel drive, it's cool. I'm not going to mod it. Yeah, and then after a while, it just became a track car, but sorry.
How did that happen? Like, why did you fix it up?
Having the EK was actually, it was all gutted. You know, it was right-hand side, K20 Type R, so I was actually comfortable with that.
Okay.
So being in that, it was just one of those, like, hearing everything, you know, just being in the car, hearing the engine and everything, to me, it's more like a comfort zone. And then when I went to Mercedes, it was just like, okay, I couldn't hear nothing. It was smooth, you know, you always worry about dips. It was just different. So when I went to the Evo, it was just kind of like, the more it's stripped, the more it's actually more race and more kind of like track and everything of that sort. It's more comfortable. For me, it is. So that's why I ended up that way. The JDM headlights, you know, obviously it's a little bit different. The color, the way the blinkers are set. The hood, front bumper, and the fenders are actually from Voltex. So those are from Japan themselves. Engine-wise, as you can tell, the intercooler, it's all set up from HKS. So all the piping and everything's HKS. The building from the engine work is by Cosworth. We actually had the head built by Cosworth. Even though it's not even JDM, but we have a Rockstar can. A lot of people always say there's a can stuck in your grill. It's actually a catch can, so it's actually functional. When it comes to rims and just setup, the rims are actually inky, so they are from Japan as well. Suspension itself is from HKS. Obviously, when you get into the car, it's a little different. I mean, everything is actually pretty much for track. Everything's wire tucked. Everything's pretty much hidden, minus the cage cluster. So we actually run it's like a track cluster. So it reads everything. You know, time, like from GPS, depending on what you want to read, it can read. It's kind of like when people have gauges on the side. Everything's all combined just into that one unit. So it's a lot easier, cleaner. Like everything on the inside, from the top of the car, the roofing, from the door panels, from the flooring, everything has been taken out. You know, it's all still preserved. You know, I know a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, you damaged it, but no.
So what'd you take out?
From the door paneling, all the sound deadening, the roofing. We took off all the padding from the roofing, the wiring, all the wiring, as you can tell from the front and the back, all the wiring, you actually don't see any wiring. We actually hid as much as the wire as we can, you know, just for that. It's a lot cleaner, easy to work on when we're actually at track. Same thing when we're on track. We changed the rear bumper. The rear bumper is from Japan, so it has, like, you know, the splitter kind of a look. It gives more downforce, you know, obviously when it comes to having the rear diffuser, a little bit more downforce. The latches themselves, these are actually old school. These are actually made by Mugen. They don't actually make them anymore, but I remember kind of stumbling upon them in the garage. You know, the garage of all the lovely toys. And then they're functional to the point when we actually have the Voltex wing on and we're on track. It just gives that extra, you know, the extra hold on the trunk, you know, so it doesn't pull up. Of course, you know, the exhaust, which is HKS exhaust. You know, 3-inch piping all the way back. Try to keep it as free and open as you can. Pretty much, I mean, it's simple. I mean, nothing. The mirrors obviously from APR, but it's in the roll cage from Cusco, but that'll be taken out, you know, because we have to have actually a welded cage in for time attack and everything.
Okay, so you do time attack?
Getting the car ready for it. It's not, no sponsors, no nothing. Everything that is pretty much parts that I get or everything, it's mostly from Evasive.
Okay.
So that's one of our biggest, Hue and everything from Evasive. They're the ones that parts that we need from Japan. They're very helpful. They're on top of it.
Okay.
So when it comes to any kind of tuning, because they do it as a profession.
Right.
Tuning, corner balancing. I always go there. They'll do all the tuning, corner balancing, and then it's always just getting on the track. Kind of like not time attack, not yet, but getting everything set to where when it does come to time attack, it's ready to perform.
Okay.
So it's always that fine tuning, pretty much.
How much power do you think it has, this car?
It's about 475 to the wheels. So it gets up. It moves. But it's one of those things that a lot of people say is a quarter mile. To me, I just I like willow springs. I like the whole time attack. Because you can have a 1,000 horsepower car, but do you have the skill to drive it on the track? So that's where it's up to the driver, pretty much. I think that's what I like.
Would you say it's JDM style?
The parts on them, yeah. All the parts, yeah. I think when we ordered the whole front end, the lights are actually from Mitsubishi from Japan. Same thing, the whole front end is Voltex, so everything is from Japan, from the cluster. All the parts are Japanese.
Right.
So I guess you can say, it's it's JDM look.
Right.
But there are some other parts that are on there that probably like the aim logger that is, they're not from Japan.
Right.
It could be from like Canada or Europe or anything of that sort. So.
Various,
people will say it's JDM, which, the Japanese domestic market, because a lot of the parts are from Japan. A lot of people will say it's, it's more like, kind of like autocrossing. It can fall into various things. But if you're going parts-wise, it'd probably be more JDM just because it's, all the parts are Japanese domestic market.
It is. Is this more for performance than looks?
It's actually both. Obviously I want the car to look nice. I don't think people want to drive around and everything's falling off.
Right.
But everything that's actually on the car is for a reason. Like the whole front end from Voltex, the vents are all for cooling everything down. The rear diffuser is for, it does give that downward force. And same thing when we have the canards. The stripping of it and the rims, suspension, it looks nice. But it's all for track, and it's all for holding on to the ground when you're rolling.
Is it more of an artwork or a toy?
Right now it's more and more. I think it's an artwork. A lot of it's an artwork because you can buy all the parts and you can have all the money, but actually putting it on and making it functional and making it work, it's different. A lot of people say racers are more like, they're putting stuff on their car that is just, it's irrelevant. It's nothing that deals with tuning. It doesn't deal with performance or anything of that sort. But I think people start calling other people racers just because they have a kind of different agenda for their car. To me, I guess you could say I've been there. When it comes to, everyone relates racers to Honda.
Right.
So to me, I don't think that's the fact. It's just you're putting stuff on a car that other people may not agree with. So that's, I think, where the name came from. But to me, everyone has a different agendas.
Right.
I don't really consider it.
So is it a positive or a negative thing, you think?
It could be depending on where you're at. I'm not saying I speak for everyone, but I would think probably in California, a lot of people take it as a negative thing. Other countries, like I said, I can't speak for everyone, but other countries, It could be I know in Japan there's some things that people will say might be ricer, but just like the Japanese, they love the American cars and we love their cars.
Right.
So it just depends.
Okay.
I mean, California is really kind of harsh on that one. They're really harsh on that one. Tuning, make sure the way it handles lift,
Right.
when you actually take a turn, the rebound, all the springs like that. So we go through a lot just to trying to make sure, and it's not one of those things where there's sponsorships.
Okay.
It's just what it is. Just like anyone else, that loves cars. It's
So-
kind of like you do it yourself.
And so, would you consider yourself a tuner?
No.
No. Okay.
No.
Can you-
For me, a tuner is someone that actually really knows, when it comes to the computer, when it comes to, the graphs and stuff. I mean, I know it very well, but I wouldn't say I'm like a tuner.
Okay. What would you consider yourself as?
Just someone just an Evo lover, I guess. I can't say really Evo. I think it's more Subaru and Evo. They're just, to me, I can't say they're the same, but it's just the all-wheel drive.
Okay.
I think it's just enthusiasts, I guess you can say,
Enthusiasts.
of all-wheel drive, pretty much.
Right. So, what do you think is the main difference between a tuner and a car enthusiast?
I would say tuner is more, they get more into kind of how, I guess you could say, I would kind of think, setup of the car.
Okay.
Even though I do it, even though I do tune the suspension and everything, but it's just kind of something that you say you do on a hobby.
Okay.
Tuner is something that I would think that they do it as a profession.
Okay.
They just do it, that's just their job.
Right,
If it's NASCAR, if it's whatever, those guys are like tuners and techs and stuff like that. When it comes to this, it's just kind of one of those people that you're just like, yeah, you learn from the tuning industry, and then you just kind of like apply it and you just learn it. But I think when it's a profession, then you're a tuner.
It is.
I would think so, yeah.
Okay. And how much do you think you've invested on this car? Not adding the car.
Could be anywhere, probably like maybe 55, 60 grand, I think.
Wow. What makes it worth it?
Everything. People's reactions. I get people's reactions, even people that are actually in the muscle car scene. And not saying, that's where everything originated from, but, some people have their different priorities, or not priorities, but have their different likes and tastes. So, last show I was at with Ron and Celine and the Superstars, a lot of guys that were actually into motorcycles, muscle cars, just to hear their input of like, wow, this is clean. Like, you've actually put time into it, and just to hear that from them, I think it was more like, I guess you could say it's flattering, but it's more like, you're doing stuff right. They like the clean kind of a style.
Right. So that's the joy. That's what makes it worth it.
That, and then when you're in the car and you hear the engine and you're just going, yeah, that too.
Yeah.
When you're on the track and you're passing up, if you're hanging with Ferraris, 411s, you're hanging with like street bikes, and it's like they're a bike and you're a car, and it's like you're actually staying with them and you're passing them. That's a big joy as well. Yeah.
So what joy do you get out of it? Is it from people looking at your car or just going fast? Honestly.
The comments that people say, and when people look at it, it's flattering. I mean, it's one of those things that you want, because I want to see other people's input. It's kind of like when guys, and when, we dress and you get dressed and girls get dressed, it's like, oh, do you like my shoes? It's kind of the same thing, but with cars.
Right.
Everything goes together. So I guess you could say it's both. When people make the comment, it just lets me know that, hey, you know what, you're actually doing things, right there. People like they like it, and then also too, when you're on the track, you're like, okay, it's functional and it works.
Cool.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like it.
Fast. So why do you do it?
It's just one of those things. I think been doing it for a while, and when you're on the track and you're actually in the car, and it's kind of like artwork. Everything that you've done, engine, suspension, all that, and you actually see that how it performs, and it's like, wow, you know, it cuts off times and how everything just kind of works together. It's just self-gratifying. You know, it's, yeah, people say you spend a lot of money on it, but it's one of those things, you know, you're enjoying what you do.
How long do you think you'll keep this car?
Forever, pretty much. Yeah, that's why everything's done to it. I probably won't sell it.